Okay, so I think you'll have seen from Andrew and David the enormous progress we've made and why we are very pleased with these results. So how do we look going forward? So firstly, I think that we've demonstrated over the last 4 years since the merger and the blip that we are able to forecast very accurately, and we've met every distribution since then, and there's no reason why we should not be able to do so going forward. We've got an excellent team, and our budgeting process is very robust and tested. So going forward, the outlook for the economy certainly remains subdued. There's no improvement for offices expected in the medium term. Looking towards the end of 2014, going into 2015, I do get a little concerned about retail sales. I think the events in China, the lower growth in China, could have some impact and on retail sales and pressure on consumers. But nevertheless, I think the sector will continue to perform well. Offices, B-grade offices in particular, as I've said previously, we need growth in GDP of 3.5% plus before we see anything meaningful happening in that sector. The restructuring of the core portfolio continues to bear fruit and will continue to do so. Strict focus on cost containment and sweating of the assets will be maintained and improved. Additional and new funding from debt capital markets will lower funding costs further. Our full year distribution is expected to show growth at a similar rate to that of these results. No reason why they shouldn't. So we remain focused on improving property net income and acquiring revenue enhancing property assets. And our full year forecast remains in line with the previous guidance. So where do we see threats? And where do we see the biggest potential problem coming through? I think that's largely political. It was explained to me very nicely the other day when I said, what happens if we have a downgrade in terms of South Africa's debt rating, the bond market, because we're seeing very, very strong inflows from offshore, both into bonds and into property. And it was put to me that we mustn't score an own goal. So in terms of labor unrest, and various things that could happen in the next 3 or 4 months, if that's not properly contained and addressed, that could result in an own goal and could possibly lead to a downgrade, which of course would be disastrous, not only for the property sector, but for the economy. So quite buoyant and quite, I wouldn't say bullish, but confident about the year going forward. 7% or growth is good in these markets, particularly when you bear in mind that we've achieved this without any lumpy income, and also taking into account the fact that we are cleaning up our portfolio and selling properties at 9.5% and 10.5% and replacing it with lower yield. So pleasing results for now. More of the same going forward. Thank you very much for your attendance, and we're happy to take any questions.